I'm Minister Don Anderson, and I'm from the North. I'm from a place called Michigan. And I was excited that I was getting an opportunity to come down to this wonderful college called Morehouse College. But I didn't know I wasn't prepared for this. I had an experience that really changed my life. I was, first of all, going to Morehouse. First day on campus, I had a rude awakening because I went there and the guys were standing around talking, and I'm just trying to be a good guy and go and register for class. But everybody was pointing toward the administration building. That was a guy by the name of Samuel L. Jackson. I didn't know who he was, but Samuel L. Jackson and a few other guys had commandeered the administration building. They had taken over the administration building and held the board members hostage until they met up to certain kinds of demands that Samuel L. and the other guys were demanding that they would do. I said, wow, who would do that? I didn't understand it then, why Samuel L. and the other guys were doing this, but I did understand it later. My experience came when my friend Chuck and I were going to spend the Easter vacation with his grandmother down in Arcadia, Florida. And we're just gonna go there and have a good time and meet some people. And Chuck's grandmother stayed just off downtown Arcadia. Now, I didn't know anything about Arcadia. I didn't understand that Arcadia, Florida was known and identified as having some of the most notorious lynchings in America. I did not know that white folks stayed on one side of the tracks and black folks stayed on the other side of the tracks. I didn't know that this infamous tree that was called the hanging tree was still there and was as yet waiting on more victims. I didn't know that. But Chuck and I, we were just happy to be down there. What could a couple of guys from college, look forward to, except having some fun and meeting some young ladies. And sure enough, when we got down there, there were a couple of ladies who had given us the eye. And it was on after then. So Chuck and I were walking downtown Arcadia, Florida, and planning on what we were going to do the rest of that evening. And these blue lights came and they were blinding us. And then car came to a screeching halt and two officers got out and approached us. And it says, boy, let me see your God identification, boy. And I said, well, officer, is there anything that we can do to help you? Chuck, in his infinite wisdom, Chuck gave him his ID. And I just was used to having peace officers coming from the north. And we could talk things over and we can, get it out. Everything will be okay. But he said, didn't I say, let me see your God identification, boy? And I said, he lifted up my foot and said, John, don't that look like them footprints in the back of the alley where that bank robbery was the other day? And I said, well, officer, you couldn't have been us because we just got here today. He said, are you trying to call me a lie? And all of the Morehouse men stood straight up in me and he said, sir, if you're trying to pin this rap on me, then yeah. What did I say that for? And the next few seconds were kind of like a blur in my mind because as they were trying to wheel on my head, I was trying to block them from hitting me and whatnot, and then they handcuffed me and they threw me in the back seat of the car and put a bag over my head and then drove me off to the precinct, which I have no idea was a long drive. So after having gone to the precinct, they booked me and they threw me in a jail cell with two other guys. One was drunk and the other one was over in the corner doing his thing. I don't know what that was. But I was in a real dark place. Literally and emotionally, I was in a dark place because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how long I would be there. I didn't no nothing. And when I pledged the fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity at Morehouse, I was made to learn this poem. It was called Invictus by William Ernest Henley. I felt like that particular poem, and I connected at that time. The poem goes something like this. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I think whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. And under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloodied but unbowed. Beyond this gate of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate and how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I'm the captain of my soul. It resonated with me, encouraged me. 14 hours later, I was out of the jail because my friend's mother was a private detective, and she did her thing and got all of the charges that they had from a felony down to a misdemeanor. And I walked out of there paying $103, and I didn't have to come back. What's the moral of this story? The moral of this story is that you need Jesus, because I don't care how unworthy or worthy you feel that you are. God is always working behind the scenes. He spared my life, because I don't know, I could have been one of the ones who was hanging on the infamous hanging tree. I praise God for that. And I thanked my mom, and I thanked my dad when I saw them the next time. I said, thank y'all for preparing me for such a time as this.